Dear parents, welcome to another very different broadcast by HES Academies. And with me in the virtual studio is Mr. Ali Ali. Welcome, Mr. Ali.
Hi, hello. Thanks for having me.
Today's presentation is an important one about cyberbullying and online safety. Ali Ali is a health educator at Access. He has worked at Access Child and Adolescent Health Center, where he delivers program on mental health, substance use, diet, exercise, and overall well-being to schools and organizations. Ali leads Community Health Leadership Program, CHLP, which select high school students are enrolled in to participate in a 6-week curriculum, followed by a hands-on community project led by the students. Ali leads the Digital Inclusion Program, DIP, which is a 25-week program that covers topics on digital literacy, financial literacy, cultural awareness, and career exploration. Ali also has participated in many clinical research projects and is a principal investigator for a current research project aimed at assessing the relation between cardiovascular health, metabolic syndrome, and the psychosocial factors among parent and child dyads. Ali is always excited and looking forward to making difference in the community he serves, and he has been also multiple times a guest in our HES Academies, where he has served the students in various ways. This presentation is very important in nowadays, especially with the virtual learning. And dear parents and community, this is open for your participation and questions in Arabic and English. If you ask the question in Arabic, we're going to answer you in Arabic. If you ask it in English, we're going to answer you in English. And please leave your questions in the comments. We will get to them by the end of the program. Before we start with the presentation, I also want to remind all our parents of HES Academies that today you will be receiving an email that reminds you of 4 important things. One is the survey for the returning to school. A second is a survey for general feedback about virtual learning. And the third is the re-enrollment for 2021-2022 school year. And the fourth is about WIDA testings. Those students who have to take the WIDA test inside the schools, you'll have some important information in that email. Without further ado, I present to you Mr. Ali Ali.
Thank you so much for the introduction and the announcements. I want to thank you for giving me the space today to share, some information on some important topics that we're all facing right now during COVID and online schooling and, with everything being, closed and at home. And with that being said, I want to thank you all for attending today, for taking the time to listen to what we have to share, and hopefully taking the information, sharing it with families, your colleagues, and community members as well. The first thing I want to share with you guys is a quick flyer that I put together, just reminding people to wash their hands before touching their face, eating, or ears, and that type of thing. Wearing a mask when in public to reduce the spread of the virus or coronavirus or any other virus that someone might have, so that you can protect yourself and others as well. And social distance when you're in public, about 6 feet, so that you're not in close contact with anyone in case they're coughing or they're to reduce the risk of spreading again any virus. So just keep these in mind. Hopefully you're all abiding by these, and share it with your kids, family, and friends and community members as well, so that we bring the numbers lower in our community. All right, I want to transition to the PowerPoint now. Let me stop sharing that window. All right, from beginning. All right, so the topic that I want to discuss today will be on bullying and online safety, with the main focus being cyberbullying, because a lot of our kids now are doing school online, or families are working from online, and a large portion of our time is spent on the internet. And I'll give like a definition, some tips on who's affected and how to deal with it, and how to be a safe online user. I want to start off So throughout this PowerPoint, I'll have true and false questions. I know we're doing a live broadcast, so in your chats, if you're able to, you could write your response to the questions and then we'll get to them. But in this scenario, how I'm going to do it is I'll read the question a couple times, let you think about it, and then I'll just give the answer. So the first question that I have, and we'll go over all these in detail with the next upcoming slides and topics that I'll cover, is, so students who are bullied in school are usually students with good attendance. Is that true or is that false? So in other words, a student who's in school who gets bullied, they maintain good attendance. It doesn't go down. Is that true or is that false? Give you a second to either type it in the chat or think about it. So students who are bullied in school are usually students with good attendance. That's false. And we'll go over the details on why that's false in the coming slides again, because, you know, it becomes a negative environment, whether it's online on the forums that they're in, or in classrooms, or on social media, or even in video games. Avoiding that toxic negative environment to reduce any negative impacts that it might have on them, will show a decrease in attendance and affect their grades or their relationships with friends and colleagues and that type of thing, and a whole bunch of other stuff as well. But so we start off with this question. It does not improve, or does not maintain their attendance. It does not improve it. Rather, it affects it in a negative way, which affects many other things. I want to give a general definition for bullying, and I want you all to keep this in mind going forward. I want you to think of bullying that consists of three main components. So bullying is aggressive behavior that is intentional. It's not something that's done on accident. For example, somebody's walking and they get bumped into, and the person apologizes and they get, they keep on going. It's different than somebody purposefully hitting someone to hurt them, or saying mean things, or spreading rumors, or that type of thing. The second thing is that it involves an imbalance in power or strength. So the person could be older, person could have a higher position, person could be stronger, bigger than the person who's getting bullied. And the last thing that I have is it's repeated over time. It's not something that just happens once. It's something that happens over and over. And so keeping these three components in mind throughout the presentation for any bullying situation. One, it's intentional. There's imbalance in power. And third, it's repeated. So here I have a definition of how the state of Michigan defines bullying. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to go over it so that you guys get an idea of how it's defined by law. All right. So bullying means any written, verbal, physical act, or any electronic communication, including but not limited to cyberbullying, that is intended, or that a reasonable person would know is likely to harm one or more pupils. And a pupil is a school student, either directly or indirectly, by doing any of the following: by causing reasonable fear, physical harm, emotional distress, affects the pupil's mental or physical health, or it disrupts the orderly operation of the school. So, for example, reasonable fear, if somebody is online and in a classroom and they're being talked about, or bullied in a way where it's verbal and it's through text or it's through the mic, that person might be afraid of going into class because they don't want to be talked about or made fun of. So then what that does is that it disrupts the orderly operation of the school for that student. Maybe they can't participate in student and projects together. They can't focus on studying for their quizzes, exams, and doing their homework and things like that. So you could see how the emotional distress comes in. Physical harm, that's more in person, that's not online. And mental health, we'll go in a deeper discussion in a bit. So this is how the state defines it. The four different types of bullying. We're going to start with physical bullying, and that's hitting, punching, and kicking. So it involves some type of in-person contact. And remember the three components. It has to be intentional, imbalance in power, and repeated over time. So the same thing goes for all these four different types of bullying. And the second one is the most common one, which is verbal bullying, which involves teasing, name calling, and being the subject of rumors. This is a very important one because a lot of times stuff that's said in the household, stuff that's said in, you know, certain relationships with people might be put on a pass, or they might let it go, or it might be appropriate in the household based on what's approved on in the household. But then when it gets brought out to the school and to the community where it might not be approved of, that's where it starts to become a bullying situation, even if it's indirect, or they might think it's not harming the person and the person might just shake it off. It still is considered a form of bullying. Nonverbal or emotional, so that's intimidation using gestures, or social exclusion. So for example, if there's activities, projects, even could be at work too, maybe through emails, there's people that are sending emails, keeping you out of all the emails, or it could be in the classroom, there's projects, activities, maybe in the gym or in recess. It could be anything where the person is not being involved in what's going on deliberately, on purpose, over and over again, which makes you miss out on all these things, makes you feel excluded. And the last one I have on here is cyberbullying. So cyberbullying involves sending insulting messages by phone or computer email. And right now with our kids online all the time using, you know, Zoom or Google Meets or something like that to be in the class, and using chats, social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, you know, playing video games, whether it's Fortnite or Roblox, they get exposed to these different types of people, different types of communities in the cyber world. And then within those communities, there's bullies who, whether they send in offensive messages, all right, they might say things that are aimed at hurting the person, or they might spread false rumors or any type of rumor. And if it's repeated over time, it's intentional, and there's imbalance in power, that's considered bullying. And at this point, I typically ask for examples that students or parents might have experienced any of these types of bullying. I get anything from where students they're playing video games, or they're on social media, somebody says mean things or hurtful things over and over and over to them again. This is where I get their insight on how they deal with it, because this is the most important thing in approaching bullying, is the steps that you take to stop it. I know at HES and almost all the schools in the area, they all have policies against bullying. It's very important to make sure that our students know about these policies and that they abide by them, and the parents as well. And making sure that they're not, you know, just taking the issue and ignoring it, because that's the biggest mistake right there. When bullying is ignored, either it will continue to the person, happening to the person, or it will happen to someone else unless it's handled. All right. So I want to go over some penalty laws in the state of Michigan against cyberbullying. I was surprised that when I've done this presentation in many schools with parents and students, there's always somebody who tells me they have been penalized with this, or they know of family members or somebody who has. So in the state of Michigan, the law states cyberbullying is a crime. So after it gets reported, documented, taken to court, and it's seen and that type of thing, it's punishable with a misdemeanor, 93 days in jail, and or a $500 fine. Okay, so misdemeanor on someone's record already. Second, a pattern of repeated harassment is a felony, punishable up to 5 years in prison and a $5,000 fine. So it jumps up, it becomes a felony, and 5 years in prison and a $5,000 fine. So there's a big difference right there between a felony and misdemeanor already. And then lastly, if it ends up unfortunately leading to the death of the victim, where they might commit suicide to themselves. And unfortunately, that is something that happens in our current world. It's punishable with up to 10 years in prison, also a felony, and a $10,000 fine. So the thing about these is that a lot of students might not know is that this is all a process. These are just some penalties that are attached to a whole bunch of other things that the person might get tacked onto. For example, a felony, when a person has that on their record, imagine if they want to apply to a job, or they want to be in a graduate program, or they want to do something, whether it's voting or anything, they have that record now. So for example, if they want to work on a team, and the manager or supervisor or director or anything wants to see their record, and they see, all right, this person was a bully, or this person hurt other people, how are they going to be with my team? All right, so it affects that as well. But then I want to mention here too, that if a person ends up committing suicide, and a person ends up going to 10 years in jail, there's kind of off balance right there. All right, let's say the less one, 5 years in prison with a $5,000 fine. The person who got bullied ends up living with that for the rest of their life, all right? Whereas this person probably got 5 years in prison because it wasn't really addressed and escalated to that point. And throughout this presentation, I'm gonna give you guys some resources that you guys could probably reach out to in case you need help and to get the proper counseling if you know anybody who's going through a situation like this. Some examples that I've had in the community is on Snapchat, where somebody was getting constantly bullied. They got the $500 fine and got charged with a misdemeanor. And on social media as well. But I think the highest one that I've heard about was the $500 fine. But it does happen where people end up either getting the felony $5,000 fine, and unfortunately where it ends up leading to a victim to commit suicide. I have another true and false question right now. I know I can't see the chat, but I want you guys to think about it. And if you can type it in chat, type it. So bullying only hurts the person being bullied. Is that true or false? So in a bullying situation, a person who's being hit or verbally bullied or non-verbally or cyberbullied, they're the only person being affected. Is that true or is that false? Give you guys a second to think about it. All right, that's false. And I want you to think about the victim's surroundings. Who do they interact with? Their family, the other people in school, or maybe at work, the community, and the bully themselves, and all these individuals that are involved in what's happening. Because for the situation to start, it really starts from a problem. It starts from some type of trauma. It starts from somewhere, and if it's not addressed, it will develop into something serious, and it affects everyone, not just the person being bullied. Now I want to go over the different types of groups. I mean, I mentioned them, but I want to kind of go in a little bit more detail and how they might be affected. So kids who are bullied experience, so whether it's cyberbullying in person, physical bullying, name calling, or online, we've seen that, there's different signs and symptoms, whether it's increased feelings of sadness and loneliness, changes in sleep and eating patterns, whether they eat more or less, whether they sleep more or sleep less, loss in interest in activities they used to enjoy before. And lastly is decreased academic achievement. So whether they're not attending class, not being able to study, or let's say if it's a person in the workplace, not being able to focus on their work and get the job done. So decreased achievement. And lastly, some of the diagnoses that we see is depression and anxiety. And I just want to mention here that, when it comes to depression and anxiety, these are conditions that are diagnosed by medical professionals. Depression, maybe somebody's feeling sad, but doesn't mean they have depression. Somebody's feeling lonely or left out, or they experience those feelings of loneliness. That does not mean they have depression. That's a diagnosis. And the thing about mental health is that when students who are being bullied experience stress, when it becomes a problem to the body is when it's chronic, when they experience it every single day, over and over and over again. It's something that they can't escape from. That's when it starts harming them. It starts harming maybe the way that they eat, again, their digestion, their brain, the way that they focus, and things like that. A good example that I like to give here is imagine being chased by a dog, okay? What happens to your body? It goes in a state of stress, right? Your digestion changes, your focus changes, your blood pressure changes, your heart rate changes. Now imagine you're being chased by a dog all the time, every single day, every week, every month. What happens to your body? It changes. The biology starts to change. It's impacted. It's going through that stress. So if the situation of bullying is looked at the same way and it's not being addressed, problems like this could start happening. All right. Second group I have on here, and some of these apply to the first group too. So the bully and how they're involved in a situation. So a bully typically, has history of maybe trauma experiences in the household or in the community where they might be, coping with it in unhealthy ways, inflicting harm on someone else, or maybe using substances to cope with it, whether they abuse alcohol and other drugs, like hookah, vaping, marijuana, and things like that. Some of you might be listening right now and saying, in my household, we don't have this, we don't have that, we don't do this, but your community does. And you work in that community, your kids go to school in that community, so they're exposed to it. And once it gets practiced, it gets tried, it opens up the door to many other types of substances. And unfortunately, in our community, smoking, hookah, marijuana, vaping, cigarettes, it's pretty common thing, and it's a gateway to other drugs, maybe like alcohol, cocaine, heroin, and things like that, more severe. So a bully shows high signs of that. They get into fights, vandalize property, and drop out of school. Engage in early sexual activity, maybe abusive towards other people that are in their life. The last group that I have, and this is a group that not a lot of us might think about, is the bystanders. So kids, and the same thing for adults, maybe if it's happening in the workplace or where you go out in public. So it's someone who witnesses a bullying, and they also experience things like substance use. Maybe because of that negative, toxic environment, it's impacting them. It's giving them stress and anxiety, because now to avoid that feeling, they might resort to that stuff, or they might miss out or skip out on school or it could be an adult too, missing out on work because they don't want to be in that environment where they don't feel like they're included. They're often being excluded, or they're verbally being bullied, or in some cases maybe physically bullied, or rumors are being spread around. So then, and to avoid, even though it's not at them, but it's at someone else, they might want to avoid that environment and therefore miss out on school, which starts affecting their grades, their performance, or at work, their work performance. And they might experience mental health problems like depression and anxiety, again, like what we talked about. But the big thing that I have on this slide is a bystander, all right? I want you to think of that word. So a bystander. And that's not what I want us to be in our community. If we see something happening, I want us to be upstanders. Upstanders, where we attempt to try to stop it. Talk to an adult. Talk to someone who's responsible and able to help us. A bystander sees it happening and they continue on with their day. They move on to the next thing. It might impact them negatively, but they did nothing to stop it. All right? So I want you to think of those three groups are affected by bullying, not just the person who's being impacted by it, but the bully and everyone else around them, right? Whether it's the person's family, their friends, their community, they all have to deal with it now because it's something that's happening around them too. I want to go over some things on how to deal with a bullying situation. And the most obvious thing and the number one thing is to tell someone and to be an upstander. So to tell someone. So only 1 in 10 victims tells a trusted adult about online bullying. So out of 100 victims, only 10 tell someone else for help, right? Imagine that number. Out of 100 victims, only 10 go tell someone for help. Go tell someone. When I tell this to kids and students, the most common thing is that, Mr. Ali, I don't want to be a snitch. I don't want to be a tattletale. It has that negative connotation around it when you tell someone, I think making it more appropriate, making it something that's acceptable to go out and tell your parents, tell your counselor, tell your principal, tell your teacher, tell someone so you get the help that you need. I remember when I said this, one of the girls, it was a student, she raised her hand. She said, Mr. Ali, one time when I was in high school, I was sitting in class, we had a substitute. I walked in class and the kids started making fun of how I was dressing. They were laughing at me the whole time and I was crying. I went and I told the substitute teacher what was happening. And the substitute teacher told me, it's fine, nothing is wrong, you're good to go, go sit back down. The girl went and sat back down. She stayed crying in the classroom, she said, and then she went home. And I asked her, what did you do when you got home? What did you do the next day? She said, nothing. I just went back to school and I continued on. So that's the first mistake right there. She did tell someone, they did nothing. But then she should have went and told someone else until she got the help that she needed to make it stop. Because if she didn't, it would have continued to her or to someone else. So that bully would have gone to someone else unless they've been spoken to, figured things out, and solved the problem. Second thing I have is, especially in the online world right now, If it's through text message, if it's through email, if it's through mic, or if it's through something like that, try to keep it, because a lot of times you might go tell someone, they might ask you, let me see, or as proof, if you want to go to the principal, these are the messages I've been getting. Or if it's in person and you have somebody that heard you, they could come and vouch for you too. Number 3 I have is don't engage or stop untrue or harmful messages from spreading online or in person. So when you see it happening, do not participate in it where you're also hurting the person. Approach it in a way where you're trying to help the person out, stop the situation, and improve both of them so that they both help each other. And I just want to mention this real quick, is that, it's going to tell an adult or someone about you being bullied. That's your right. That's your right to stop someone from hurting you emotionally and physically. I mean, nobody wants to be in an environment where they're constantly dealing with it every day. Just yesterday, I had a presentation on bullying, and it was mainly focused on mental health. One of the students raised her hand. She said that I was afraid of telling my mom about what was going on, but she saw me crying in my house. So she went and called the school just to ask what was happening because I wasn't talking to her. Making it an acceptable environment where kids are able to come up and talk, and not feel ashamed that they're reporting bullying. And I just want to emphasize that do not engage. I remember some of the students used to say, but Mr. Ali, if I'm in person and I'm being cornered and I'm being hit and I'm being bullied, what should I do? Should I just stay getting hit and do that? I mean, we're not telling you not to defend yourself, but do not become the bully in that situation. Do not defend yourself in a way where then you start hurting the person and becoming the overall bully in the whole matter, all right? Number 4 is stand together and hold bullies accountable, whether they're online or in person. Make it that environment where you guys have the motion, have the agenda to stop bullying, and where it's acceptable to tell a teacher or tell an adult. And spread it around the community, tell each other about it so that it becomes part of our culture here. All right. I want to make sure I'm on time with you guys. It's 3:30. We might end a little bit earlier today just because this presentation does typically take about an hour, but I know you guys can't speak and that type of thing. I want to leave a good amount for questions in case you have any. So my last point I want to cover today is how to be a safe online user. I'll give you some general tips and some pointers, but mainly it will come on your willingness to combat cyberbullying and do something about it, and at the same time watch out what you're surfing on the internet. So I believe last year or the year before, 2019, was a record for the amount of scam calls, emails that were being sent out in the country and that type of thing. I just want to give like a little pointer out there. A lot of you might know about this, but just a little reminder, especially with the kids too. Avoid emails that say, you won this prize, or come change your password on Amazon, Apple, or Google. And you click that link, but it takes you to a fake website where you enter your account and password, and then they store it. And then they use it against you to steal your information. Be careful from those websites. Or websites that ask for personal information. Or phone calls, when you get a phone call saying, oh, you won this prize, all we need is this and this. Or, this is the government calling, can you give us this information about you? That stuff is typically done in person or through the mail, not online and not over the phone and not through email. So just making sure our kids and families are aware of that, and that they're not clicking these links to get these prizes or going on unsafe websites. We really do not know who's on the other side of that screen on the online world. We do not know what their intentions are. We do not know if they want to steal from us, hurt someone, or do anything harmful. So just being very cautious when we're online and who we're interacting with is something that I just want to throw out there, especially because kids are right now using their laptops for school, so they're on the internet. And then maybe for entertainment too, whether they're on social media or doing things like that, recreational things as well. It's being out on the lookout for these things. Some other little quick things I have on here is if you're searching the web and you're typing a website, you see that little lock, and if that lock is not there, that's a good hint that that's an unsafe link. Avoid that website, move on somewhere. It might be something that's malicious, trying to steal your information or download something on your computer. Stay away from those websites, be on safe websites. Do not click on unfamiliar links again through your email or if you're being directed to another website, because a lot of times that's how viruses or malware gets on there and information is stolen and things like that. Never give personal information over the phone or online. I can't stress that enough. You know, I might say phone and online, but also on video games, and social media, or anywhere. You know, a good example for this is treat online like how you would treat a playground. If you're in a playground, a stranger walks up to you, what's your phone number? What's your address? Where do you live? How old are you? You're not going to tell them anything. I mean, hopefully you're not. Hopefully your parents told you otherwise. And that, you know, same thing for adults too. You don't know these strangers. You don't know what their intentions are. So treat the online world like how you would the real world. Avoid those scams, avoid those people, avoid those phone calls. This is a new topic that I'm covering that I added in this presentation, especially because it's pretty common in the Dearborn, Detroit metro area. A lot of people are using these platforms to get access to youth, to get access to different types of people, to start, you know, building the market for, you know, maybe selling things that are illegal, whether it's drugs or other things. It's being very mindful that once the kid or adult is online using the internet, they have access to all this stuff. So making sure they don't click on spam, not to respond to disturbing messages, but to report them so that it doesn't continue. Not to get together with any meet online or that type of thing. Some apps that I have on here for parents to use is Casper Sky, Safe Kids Family GPS, or KidG Parental Control app, and to monitor and give feedback, right? If you see, for example, your kid on these websites that might be taking the personal information, or if somebody's calling them, or they're constantly, like for example, if your child sees these offers sent to them and you see them send them to you often, just let them know that these might be a scam. They might be there to steal their personal information and use it for their own good and that type. Give them the feedback so that they don't continue doing it. All right. So here I had a video. This video pretty much goes over how sometimes you have people, especially youth, that might be talking to someone online who they might think is a certain age. They might look a certain way, or they work a certain job, or they do a certain thing, or they go to a certain school, and they try to trick youth into believing these things so that they could either meet up with them in person, so that they could do harmful things. And that youth have to be very cognizant about this, very aware that, all right, I have to be careful who I'm talking to online. I shouldn't be trusting anything anyone says online. Unless, you know, I know them in person and we're talking in person and it's somebody that, you know, I've met either in school, teacher, or my family members, and not just any stranger. Because, you know, kidnappings, you know, hurting people, stealing information, that stuff happens. That stuff is out there. Just making sure that you're aware and you practice safe measures. So I covered today. Hopefully you guys learned some new information. Hopefully it was a refresher for some of you. And I'm hoping you're able to take this information, share it with people around you, share it with the community, so that hopefully we become a little safer online. We stop bullying in the community. We, you know, whether it's the person who's being bullied or the bully or the surrounding people, they get the support that they need. We tell somebody to help us. We don't just ignore it. And we be careful when we're using the online web. And I mentioned, I don't know if I have an address right here, but I'll mention it. So right now I work at the Community Health Clinic, Child and Adolescent Health Center. And here we have therapists, we have doctors, and you know, medical staff and that type of thing. So if you know somebody who might be stressing out, or, you know, going through some type of mental health condition or mental problem, and they need that support, or even, you know, medical support, we're here to help them. We offer these services for the community, and, you know, feel free to recommend them to us. We'll have we have a wide array of services. We'll be able to recommend them to other places as well. I know I emphasized it in the stress area, but, you know, just to, you know, throw it out there, with issues that happen. For example, if you have a child who's experiencing, they can't focus, or their appetite is changing, or their sleep is impacted. And if they know the reason, maybe I didn't sleep good yesterday, or maybe I'm not eating good, that's why I can't focus, or I'm not drinking water. Where it becomes a problem is when it's chronic, when it's happening over and over again for a period of time. You know, seeking medical support is the way to go. But making it normal in our community to report bullying, to stop bullying and to have a safer community is the way to go. And I hope that you guys take that message and spread it around. And with that being said, I want to leave the last minutes of the presentation open for questions, comments, or anything that you guys have to say. Yeah, stop sharing.
Thank you, Mr. Ali, for this beautiful presentation and important information. Dear parents and community, if you have any questions right now, we will be accepting them for the next 4 minutes. Mr. Ali, so as far as email, students now, they receive emails and they email each other. What are some of the things that they need to understand about emails? First of all, as far as emails that they receive and deciphering, spam from real, and also the etiquettes of emailing each other.
Okay, very good question. Let me give you an example too. About 6 months ago, I was signing up for this training. I was talking to the supervisor of the training and everything. I was giving him my paperwork. You have to pay money for the training. So I gave her the registration form. She gave me the check. I emailed the check in the form to the person that I know. I've talked to this person. I've called them. I emailed them. All right. The check and the registration form. I immediately get an email back from that person saying, here's your receipt. You got to click on this link to get to your receipt. I click on that link. I go to the website. Turns out it was a fake website. That website stole my email login and everything. And then the next day, they started sending out emails to all the companies that I've worked with, all these places under my name. So the person who hacked that lady's email, the one that I work with, was monitoring what we were talking about, and they immediately sent out a fake message. So with students, just being aware of who they're talking to, looking out for those emails, and being professional online too, not giving out any sensitive information, not believing anything that they see, being very professional, maintaining that student etiquette. I give information out that's only related to my academics, that's related to my schooling, and that's about it. Behaving well online, watching what they're saying and how they're acting, because it reflects their character as a person, but also there could be that hacker looking at it, and they could, end up sending out a fake email, and you'll be able to spot it and not click on it. But if they trick you, the other people who you deal with will know that that's not you, that maybe that's someone else, because of your etiquette and how you behave.
Thank you, Ali. So when a person receives an email, if there is something that is suspicious about this email, and the email asks you to do something, like click on a link, if you're suspicious about it, do not click that link. If you receive, usually when someone sends an email, it has to have some sort of an introduction, a greeting and a signature at the end. But if you receive like an email from a friend with just a link, and the link is kind of suspicious, don't click on it. And if you're not sure, you can actually call your friend or text them, ask them, did you send me an email with a link? Because this is how sometimes people send viruses to each other. So be aware of that. And also, email is a formal communication, so it's not like texting. Don't write your message in the subject line. Write it in the body. The subject is just like the title of the email. And there is 3 places where you can place your email, either to, or CC, or BCC. And CC means this is an email that you want to send a copy of your email to. And BCC means you want to send a copy of your email without others knowing, who are included in that email. So use that, if you're communicating with for example, someone about a classroom, you can always CC your teacher. You can, include an adult if you feel that you're not comfortable emailing a specific person. And you can always refer back to your teacher or adult if you feel anything uncomfortable. Always ask if anything doesn't feel right for you. Trust your instinct. What else, Ali? We had also a question about some of the cyberbullying as far as discussions. So if there is a discussion in a classroom about a topic, and these discussions can be heated, people can have different opinions. When does it cross the line of a discussion into an insult, into a bullying?
Okay, that's a good question. Again, I think uh, going back to the definition of bullying, and one, it has to be intentional. What the person is saying or what they're doing is intentional. It's meant to mean harm to the other person. Two, there's imbalance in power where that other person who's being bullied might feel afraid of reacting to it, whether the person is bigger, older, might have a higher position or something. And the third thing is that it's repeated. It's something like it keeps happening. Maybe the person who's experiencing it tells them to stop, but they don't stop. And it keeps happening, keeps going on, where it ends up impacting them. And maybe they don't feel like they could do anything about it. And then that's when they go tell the teacher. There's a teacher in the classroom that knows how to settle these things. And maybe if you're not lucky or you don't have the support, never stop there. Always, go to your parents, the principal, the counselor, go to someone to get the help that you need to make it stop. Because if that argument gets out of place, either you'll continue experiencing it in the classroom at that moment, or it will happen outside of the classroom in the cafeteria or online right now. Maybe when you go play games or you're on social media, you might get it after class where you might have in that intense argument and it starts transforming into bullying.
Thank you, Ali. And like you said that always be an upstander, not a bystander. It's very easy. 4 words that turn you from a bystander to an upstander. Cut it out. Or if 4 words are too long, you can use one word, stop. Basically telling the bully to stop his bullying, or bringing his or her attention to their behavior, because sometimes they're not aware that their behavior is actually is being mean or is putting another person under stress. So and you can always seek assistance from administrators, your teachers, your peers in the classroom. They're always there for you to support you and help you. With that, Ali, we don't have any more questions. If you we would like to share uh, your information, so as parents or students can, um, if there's any like hotlines or anything that they can obtain more information about cyberbullying, that would be great.
So anyone could feel free to reach me at pretty much Ali, ALI, at accesscommunity.org. That's my email. ACCESS community, COUMMUNIT.org. There you go. It's in the chat. Feel free to email me in case you have any questions about cyberbullying or any mental health services or medical services that we provide here in the clinic. I'll make sure to get you the support that you need, whether you're a student or parent or anyone. And, I just want to make sure that you guys are safe, that you guys have the support that you need, especially during this time that we're all living in, whether we're studying at home, working at home, just being in an isolated environment. And then at the same time, having to deal with the bullying inside of your own house on the computer. Before, a lot of people, even when they leave their house, they experience it. So for example, at work and school, and then they come home, they experience it online, but now it's all in the same environment. So, having the support, having someone to talk to is the way to go in these situations, and not just bottling it in. So if there's no more questions, I just want to say thank you all for tuning in. I want to thank HES, and I want to thank Sam, Mr. Sharafuddin, for giving me the opportunity to speak today. And I wish you all stay safe, stay warm, and stay healthy. Please make sure to wear masks, wash your hands, stay about 6 feet apart from each other, and spread the message around the community so that we have a better place where we live in. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ali. And just a reminder again for our parents and community that there's an email going out to parents today with 4 reminders. The survey, your feedback survey on virtual learning is due today. And also the return to school survey, the 3 choices you can choose from is also due today. And also, the third reminder will be about the re-enrollment for the 2021-2022 school year. And the fourth is about WIDA testing, which starts on February 2nd. And you will be informed about all these in the email coming up today. Thank you again, Ali, and thank you, Access. And we'll see you in the next Family Engagement broadcast.
Thank you.